I never really got the chance to own the previous version of this, so aside from it being repaint, I don't know exactly what else is new, whether he's got new accessories, whether they've improved some flaws that might have been a thing from that previous version. With all that said, I'm going to consider this thing as the same old figure with some surface level upgrades. And using my own barometer for evaluating these figures, I'm going to determine whether this mold and all of its moving parts have stood the test of time. Dang it, I forgot to review the box before I took him out of it. Here he is outside the box, inside his clamshell and all of his accessories, and they're pretty nice. Front of the box, very nice window, and there's a display backdrop that serves as a backdrop of the box itself inside, so that it doesn't look boring when the figure is inside. Okay, Street Fighter Ryu outfit 2, Ryu in a very nice battle pose, gritting teeth. Yeah, the the back of the box, some pretty nice promo shots, Ryu in his iconic pose, and different options. Anyway, information at the top and at the bottom. Standard and nice box for an SH Figuarts. Let's take him out of the clam. Okay, some initial impressions. I think that it is a solid figure, despite its simplistic design. It's got details everywhere. There are creases on the pants and on the gi, and even the flesh has a good amount of shading to bring it to life. The sculpted details on the muscles, the arms, and on his chest. If there's one thing I don't like about this figure, it would be the face, because compared to this, it doesn't look as manly as it could be, but you know, I guess that's up to personal preference. Also, I think the hair might be a little too glossy, but maybe that's how it should be. I mean, it's nothing over the top. It's getting closer there. Overall, it looks good. And gloves, even the gloves have shading. Some nice paint work done on top of the white. By the way, this figure stands at about 5 3/4 of an inch at the top of his hair, so I think that's a pretty good scale. I mean, that's a pretty good height relative to the scale of this figure. I think we're not really getting a lot in terms of accessories. They kind of distilled it to the essentials, and nothing wrong with that, but for the price, I think we should be getting more. We get a pair of open clenchy hands, pretty nicely sculpted and a good amount of shading, same as the fisted hands. We get 3 extra head sculpts minus the hair, so you're gonna have to share the only hair piece that the figure has across these heads. Open mouth, angry expression, a gritted teeth face. He's got a side eye here. He's brooding, he's focused, he's murderous, maybe. He's probably thinking of different ways to beat you up. Then we got the Hadoken effect, which is done pretty well. Goes from white and transitions to blue, translucent blue. Pretty cool. Stand to hold Hadoken effect. There's supposed to be a hole, I guess, where you can just key this in. Okay, so if I were to rate the accessories, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. I think that's a fair score. They could have easily thrown in some more hands, and yeah, more hands, because that would be beneficial for a fighter like this guy. And a stand for the figure itself. Moving on to articulation, because that's arguably the most important element of a figure, its posability. Double ball pegs at the top of the neck, assuming it's the same down there, because it does function the same. So you get a good amount of movement going down, going up, side to side, back in. And as we saw earlier, this is a separate piece, so it does articulate, it rotates. You get this much range looking down and this much range looking up. And I think that's a good enough range looking up. Not really impressive, but it will get the job done. Side to side movement for nuance posing, great. His arms can go out that far, but while that is impressive, this one isn't. See, there is no bicep cut. That sucks. We should have bicep swivel. That should be standard these days for action figures. Instead, we get the rotation here at the elbow. I think that's pretty outdated. Yeah, that sucks. No bicep swivel, just a rotation at the elbow, and the elbow is not really done well. See, that's cavernous. That's ugly. I don't like it. You got a butterfly joint, and it functions well enough. Well enough that he can actually cross his arms like so. Can he? Yeah, you're gonna need to force it a little bit so that it gets the job done. Yeah, pretty dope. These torn up pieces of his gi by the shoulder does help hide the otherwise ugly cuts down there. His torso, let's see, I think there is ball hinge down there. It's hard to see, and I don't want to stretch this too far because this is not my figure. I just borrowed this. Not really much range. Bending forward, there's a ball peg down here in conjunction with the upper torso cut going back. Good thing this is a soft rubbery piece. The gi. It's kind of like low-key Storm Collectibles in that manner. Losing focus. So I'm not really impressed by the movement at the torso because it's kind of janky. The upper body can rotate just like that because of the ball peg at the waist. This is a separate piece, so it does help with posing, I guess. Okay, for his hips, it does allow his legs to go out that far. Not really full-on splits, sadly, and I think full-on splits would be a necessity for Ryu, but it's a good enough range going out. It doesn't really look bad in terms of the segmentation down there. You notice that this is a little too clean of a white, and it gets dirtied up down here. For thigh swivel, not really getting a lot. The age of this figure is really showing. That's weird. That's not a double jointed knee. That's kind of like a ball with a hinge at the middle. It doesn't really function as well as a standard double ball peg would. I mean, look at this. That's a significant difference. This is a much cheaper figure. This is a premium figure. It does feel more premium than this, but overall, this is just put together better than this guy, I guess. And they do technically function well, but they don't offer an impressive range. So that sucks. Okay, moving on to the ankles of this guy. Well, it does function well. It can kick forward a good amount, kick back a solid amount, and I guess there's a rocker. Ooh, wait, there is a rotation lower legs by the shin, but do we get an actual rocker? Yeah, we do get an actual rocker, and it functions superbly. So it does have its redeeming qualities in the articulation section, but it does fall short in major ways because you can't really crunch forward a lot, and you can't really bend back without him looking weird. I guess you can fix that by moving things around, but there is a lot of finagling involved to make this figure look good when you're posing him around, especially when you're dealing with the torso. But yeah, we get a toe joint, which is done well enough. It's kind of loose, 3.5 out of 5 because yeah, it is obviously a little outdated in some significant ways. I guess it offers a good amount of range, enough to put him in his iconic poses such as that and that. So yeah, not that we are asking for it to be excessively articulated, but it could be better. It could be better, but it does offer a good amount of range. So yeah, bottom line is the articulation is just good enough to put him in cool poses, and with the way the articulation is set up, I guess yeah, it is achievable. Crazy poses are achievable. But yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention is that the wrist joint. We've got a ball hinge set up here, and with that, you can move the hand whichever way you want, rotate it, position it any way you want. Okay, time for some simple size comparisons, and it makes the most sense to put him side by side with this guy, Ryu from Jada Toys. And you know what? Here I was thinking that SHF is a little bit more underscaled, but turns out it was a true 1/12 scale, because this is true 1/12 scale, so what makes you think that this isn't, right? Yeah, they look pretty good. Obviously feels more premium, but in many ways, the Jada Toys annihilates this guy. He's got updated articulation, he's got bicep cuts, and he's got double jointed knees and elbows. You know, he can do full-on splits just like that. No problem. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's gonna be a toss-up depending on whether you're exclusively collecting premium figures like SH Figuarts, Mafex, and analog brands, I guess. But value per dollar, I'm gonna go with the Jada Toys. Anyway, we're not talking about this guy. We're talking about this guy, and this is simply a size comparison segment of the video. But it couldn't be helped. It just couldn't be helped. These figures are expensive, so we have to be critical when evaluating them so that we can decide for ourselves if it's worth picking up more of the same. I mean, more of the same as in, the other Street Fighter figures from the SH Figuarts line. Okay, here he is next to the Mafex Scarlet Spider. Oh no, everything's falling apart. My life, my speech, and my action figures. Some final thoughts on this release. I think that the only reason that anybody would pick this up is if they were an SH Figuarts loyalist. Because there's nothing this figure can do that the Jada Toys Ryu can't. The Jada Toys Ryu can do far better than this guy. Sure, the plastic feels more premium. It does look more premium because of the paint and whatnot. It's just that as an action figure, it's kind of weird to handle because of the constraints especially in the torso region. And I don't really like how the elbow is done because it looks ugly. And I just can't look past that because it's a premium action figure and it's priced as such. So it's got some visually unappealing features. To be fair, I don't really think that they were trying to be above average with this guy. It's just a celebration of the IP. For those who missed out the first time around, this is their chance to pick it up at a more reasonable price. And at least if they're picking it up this time around, it's slightly upgraded in terms of the cosmetic department of this figure. Because it is painted nicely, there is a good amount of shading, and it is probably super accurate to the game where this is derived from. So as a final rating, I give it a 3 out of 5. I know that it doesn't really make sense given the score I gave for the individual portions of this review. That's just the score I feel is appropriate for this figure as a package, because I'm not going to give it more for this. I don't really think that a lot of people will be able to use this, will be able to find this useful in any way, because to me this is just not necessarily a waste of space, but not exactly friendly for those who have minimal shelf space. So yeah, what do you guys think? Are you picking this figure up? Are you going to track him down? Or are you just going to track this guy down, the Jada Toys Ryu, if you don't have him already? Because to me, he's just better value for the money. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully within the next 2 or 3 days. Bye.